This is really important because you can't really step into that power that Etienne was talking about without being able to understand that you have certain rights that are given to you by creation, and they're not given to you by man. You know, you might be able to understand that government is doing immoral things and that there's all these problems and there's all this corruption, but until you realize that you have rights that are endowed to you by the creator, kind of in the same sense, the same vein as the people who founded this country said, you know, rights endowed to us by the creator, then you can really step into that personal power of being like, okay, I actually have the right to do this. And now I can engage in peaceful non-compliance. And, you know, that's how these examples that Etienne is giving, that's how these all, you know, started off as just peaceful non-compliance and people just refusing to comply. And when people refuse to comply in a peaceful, heart-centered way, then there's no way that governments can rule over us, period. Where there's way too many of us. And one of my lines from Scam is outnumber them 1,000 to 1, wake from your slumber, the battle is won. You know, so it's like as long as we can wake up and realize that nobody has any true power over us, and we hold that power in the rights that are endowed to us by creation, there's no way that we can be ruled.
The grass is always greener on the other side, no matter wherever you reside. You always think that someplace else is where you finally find yourself. But if you went to someplace else, you know you'd only find after a while yourself thinking. The grass is always greener on the other side, no matter wherever you reside. You always think that someplace else is where you finally find yourself. But if you went to someplace else, you know you'd only find it's exactly like one sand.
You're listening to TruthConduit.com with Chris McMillan.
Hey everybody, Chris McMillan here. There's another episode of TruthConduit.com, and I am having a party here with a group of awesome people. I have got with me Etienne de la Boetie2, who you may remember from my previous episode 43, who's with the Art of Liberty Foundation, and also he's the author of this awesome book here, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, which it is. And so hopefully there will be, most people listening to this are already familiar with his work, but if you're not, I do want to get kind of a re-intro for what those are about. And the other thing that you've got is the Liberator pen drive. So that is something we've got on offer. And also I'm with Grant of Prezence Music, whose viral song Scam is on fire right now. It's all over the internet. It is a very spot on reggae style song, and I will definitely link everything that I talk about into the show notes. And also we've got with us Stephanie. Stephanie is the go-to girl with these guys, and she's also a fellow autonomy student in Richard Grove's autonomy course. I just wanted to start with Grant, because you might be kind of new to people who listen to my show. Your history of how you got started with Prezence Music, which is your group, you and a guy, David, is that right? Do you want to tell us a bit of the story, the background story, how you guys got started?
Thanks for having me on, Chris. Yeah, I am a reggae artist. I have been making music my entire life since I was very young. And then I started waking up in around, I don't know, I'd say maybe 2015, something like that. And when this whole COVID scamdemic hit, I had the distinct honor of developing a cool relationship with my next door neighbor. His name is King David James. He moved in next door to me. And as he was moving in, he said, I'm a reggae artist. If I'm ever too loud, just let me know and I'll quiet down. And I said, oh, you're not going to have to worry about that because I'm a reggae artist too. And it was just a really funny coincidence because we lived in this tiny town of about 2,800 people at the time. And we started making music together, and that turned into Prezence. And when the whole lockdown thing began, both of us were put out of work completely because we were working in the hospitality industry in Aspen. And so we just started going full bore into making truth and freedom music at that time and working on spreading liberty through music. And most recently, I put out this song called Scam, which was kind of a spin-off of Etienne de la Boetie2's book, The Most Dangerous Government, the Biggest Scam in History Revealed. And yeah, I've been really grateful that people like Max Egan and Jeff Berwick, the Dollar Vigilante, and some other large accounts have helped me to get the message out there and spread it all over to the freedom community. And I hope to continue to spread the message of liberty and sovereignty. So thanks for having me on today.
Yeah, no problem. So King David, he goes by. I wondering. So when you guys met, it was reggae, but did you have anything else in common? Like, was he a bit awake from the out? Had he snapped out of the matrix? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I wouldn't say he was quite as like on the libertarian wave as I was, or maybe voluntarist, but he was already very open-minded, and so I kind of helped to push him that little bit over the edge. So now we can be in alignment with values in our music. So good question.
You were so lucky, man. I would give anything to have somebody living so near me that, on that same wavelength. I have a good community around me, but not where I could walk to their house. I mean, how awesome to be able to walk to someone's house. Of course, you've moved since then. This was in Colorado, right? And you've now recently relocated.
Correct. Yeah, I had to relocate during the scamdemic because I was just tired of being policed by everybody up in Colorado. It got really, really communist up there really fast, and everybody just bought into the narrative really quickly and just started falling for it. And then around that same time, I discovered Sedona, Arizona, and I figured out that this is like the consciousness capital of the world, as Etienne says, or, it's got a lot of highly conscious beings and people who maybe are not completely on the anarchist voluntarist wave, but they're at least, conscious people who don't want to cause harm and steal from their neighbors and that kind of stuff. So it's very easy to get along with people in this community and spread freedom here. And so I'm super grateful to be here in Sedona at this time.
I didn't know that about Colorado. Yeah. The Arizona is also in the freedom-minded community, the home of Ernie Hancock, and I believe Etienne de la Boetie2. Is that right?
That's correct. Now Grant can walk over to my house and collaborate with me, and so it's been really a pleasure to get to know Grant better and to collaborate with him, on this project.
Yes, but I do have to reveal your dark secret. Is I know, and you know, that you can take the boy out of Texas, right?
I am a misplaced Texan. That is correct. When I came up, the largest sports team at my high school was the rodeo team.
Very good. Well, do you want to update us since we last spoke about you were getting it all cranked up? Your book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History, along with The Liberator, your goal was to get this out to as many people as possible. Now, my question is, what updates do you have since we last spoke? How's that going? And how has, since the song was released, Scam, has it helped the sales? What's been going on with that?
Absolutely. And so just to kind of give everybody a background, my name, Etienne de la Boetie2, is a pen name. And my book, Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, has been designed to wake up your friends, your family, your colleagues, your neighbors, and take them from 0 to 60 in the shortest amount of time possible. Most people are visual learners, and so the book features historical photos. It features visualizations that make what was invisible now visible through visualization. It reveals the historical pattern that the United States, the Soviet Union, Nazi Germany, and East Germany are all using the exact same playbook to create the culture of tax slavery and order following within the population. And the subtitle of the book is How Intergenerational Organized Crime Runs the Government, the Media, and Academia. And so those are some of the things that I'm, revealing in the book, that it's been government and the media working together since at least that quote unquote founding of the country. And that control of perception whether it's forcing children to go to mandatory government schools where you're controlling the information they receive in an unethically manipulative way to raise children in this ideology of that there has to be a state, that there has to be a government, that government is legitimate, government is desirable, and government is necessary, even though there's no ironclad law of the universe that says you have to have a government at all. And so, government has been the biggest scam in history. And so what I'm trying to do with the book is explain how the magician does the trick in this very visually rich way that will get most people who would never engage with a text only book. Well, when you make it visualization and image rich, you expand the number of people that will engage with any book from 10 to 15% to kind of 40 to 50+%. And then once people pick it up and they see some of these visualizations and they begin to just kind of instantly see the pattern of the 20 techniques in the front of the book, well, they're just absolutely hooked. And so we get a lot of testimonials from people around the world that where we've been successful in helping them wake up their friends, their family, their relatives to the scam of the government system. And so you mentioned that we're now working on the fifth edition of the book. And the fifth edition of the book will bring the book into the age of the COVID, where we're going to be explaining how the scam of the COVID was pulled off. We're going to explain the people and the organizations and the evidence for foreknowledge and the evidence for disaster capitalism. And then we're also updating, you mentioned we back up the book with either currently right now, either a 8 or 16 gig flash drive that we call the Liberator. And so we will be updating, we'll be getting rid of the 8 gig and the 16 gig Liberator. We'll only have a 32 gig Liberator. But this will feature, the best evidence of foreknowledge or disaster capitalism, or the fact that this was a manufactured, engineered event. And so we have launched an Indiegogo at artofliberty.org/Indiegogo. And when we announced the Indiegogo, we released Grant's song "Scam," which immediately went viral. 31,000 plus, views on YouTube alone in the past couple of weeks. And the song is being censored by both Spotify and Twitter that we know about, and potentially other, social media platforms as well. But that is
that validates it as a legit song right there. That's a rite of passage.
You got it, man. You're over the target when they're censoring you on Spotify and Twitter. And so that has been that's been very, very successful. So Grant and I are out there doing the circuit, telling people about the Indiegogo, telling people about the new 5th edition of the book, telling people about the song "Scam."
How did you two get together? How did you meet? What were the sequence of events that led to this united project?
We originally met at Jackalope Freedom Festival up in northern Arizona. That's put on by Alma Summer. Actually, no, she doesn't really put it on. The Jackalope puts it on. It's a decentralized, non-organized event, but she's like the kind of the founding mother of it. And it's a really, really cool freedom event. If you haven't heard of it, maybe you guys have heard of it. It's just a little event that happens up in northern Arizona every year. And a couple of years ago, I was up there playing music, solar powered music, powered off of my solar powered setup. And Howard and some other people, I think Larkin Rose was in the audience. I think Sterling Lujan was in the audience. And I was like so starstruck because I just had been looking up to all those guys for a long time. And then after I played, Howard came up and he's like, "Bro, we got to talk. What's your deal? We gotta connect." And then from then we smoked a little ganja together, and then we both ended up living out here in Sedona, and we've been homies ever since. So it's been a cool ride.
Yeah, and I'll add to it. You can just tell by Scam that Grant's got an amazing amount of talent, and I immediately realized that this could be our crossover artist. This could be the guy that could take voluntarism to the whole world and could pack a stadium. And when you hear the rest of the catalog, you'll understand why I still feel that today. And so we immediately began kind of collaborating. And Grant has we recently hosted Derek Brose's activation tour, where the Art of Liberty Foundation helped do a lot of the organizing, and Grant helped rock the house. And so those are just some of the ways that we've been collaborating in the local, Sedona area, and we enjoy hanging out. And so it's been a fantastic partnership.
Those festivals, that is the whole point. That's what it's all about, having these freedom festivals that go on. I've been tempted to go to the Jackalope every summer, but it hasn't happened yet. I'm familiar with Alma and her work, and I know Derek as well. I've met Sterling one time. In fact, Derek's tour that he did like 4 years ago, he came through. One of our families in our homeschooling freedom cell have some land out in East Texas, and they hosted Derek, and Sterling came as well, and they both gave speeches. I know Sterling's quite a character for sure. You mentioned his name. I was like, I remember Sterling. I haven't heard that name in a while. He lives about 3 hours up the way from me. The Sedona situation there, you guys are there. What are other projects you guys doing locally? Are you like meeting with, do you have any networking going on up there? Do you have local like groups, meetings, meetups? What are you guys up to up there on a kind of a sidebar note?
Well, I'll say that we're also working on Thick Red Line, and so we've been trying to get the local police department and the sheriff's department to understand that they should be aligned on natural law instead of politician law.
Yes,
And that
yes.
you
Tell
can't
us, remind us what the thick red line is, just for anyone
So,
listening who
there's a lot of
hadn't heard
cops
that.
that don't want to be going along with the lockdowns, the mask mandates, the red flag laws. And so what we've been trying to do is support them to say no to the politicians on these laws that are inherently immoral. And so if you're a police officer or you're a sheriff's deputy and you're trying to figure out, is this a good law? You can't use the fact that a politician wrote it down on a fancy piece of paper, because if you use politician law as your denominator of morality, well, you end up with sundowner laws or Jim Crow laws or fugitive slave laws or Nazi Germany or anything like that. And so the Thick Red Line project encourages the police to draw a thick red line in the sand and educates them on natural law. And in natural law, there's 5 main transgressions. There's murder, theft, assault, rape, and trespass. And all of those are obviously wrong because there is a victim. The word right, a lot of people don't understand, that comes from the natural law tradition, and a right is anything that's not a wrong. So if you're not hurting somebody else, with your actions, then you have the right to do whatever you want and be left alone by government. Now, what ends up happening is dirty politicians pass bad laws, and then the police don't really have a barometer to be able to measure that against morality. And so what we're doing is we're explaining them the basics of morality. And so instead of using politician law as your barometer, we educate about natural law. And then if there's not a victim, it's not a crime. And so we build, Thick Red Line builds community support for the police to say no collectively, supported by the community. And if it's the people and the police together, then really it's checkmate against the politicians. And so the Thick Red Line, educates the police on natural law. it suggests to them and, kind of gets the idea virus that unless you want to go along with tyranny, then you need to say no collectively. And then finally, it builds community support behind the officers to say no to the politicians. And so if the community is saying, no, we don't want them to do that, we're telling them not to do it. We're telling them to ignore you, dirty, dirty politicians. Again, if it's the people and the police united, there's nothing the politicians can do. So that's another example of how we're trying to spread liberty in Sedona, Yavapai County. And then, finally, I just wanted to kind of mention that, and Grant touched on it, Sedona is the consciousness capital of the world. There's so many people here that have been attracted to the vibe of Sedona of, non-aggression principle. Nobody, lies, cheats, or steals here. I've yet to run into anybody. I'm sure it happens, but for the most part, it's a magnificently unique community. And so we've met so many people that are either openly voluntarist, or if they don't call themselves voluntarist, they do not support the government because they understand inherently that government is based on lies, extortion, indoctrination, theft, etc. And so there's very, very little, support for government, and the enforcement of the mask mandates and the lockdowns has been almost non-existent here. I mean, there's, a couple of stores that were trying it for a little bit last year, but it just did not fly here. So it's one of the freest places. I did two different book tours last year. I was in 40 different states, and between Arizona, Texas, Florida, and Idaho, those 4 states, and New Hampshire, those 4 or 5 states, that is the, kind of the freest places that I've seen in the country. And so I feel, blessed to be able to live here.
What was the worst?
It's almost a tie between California, Oregon, and Washington.
I see why Grant left up there, man.
Yeah.
To approach the police about something like that, I don't know. That would be a real trigger complexity for me, because I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to go near them. The minute you talk to them or engage with them, in theory, you're screwed, because all they have to do is say, well, oh, you're resisting arrest, and bring you in, and your life is you're in a big, you've got a big problem. What has been the reaction so far on trying to promote the thick red line?
Well, my nickname is the Police Whisperer. And so last year when the COVID came out, I spent 2 months organizing resistance with David Rodriguez of the Gatto Project in Santa Cruz, California. And, we were doing civil disobedience every single week, trying to stop these lockdowns and trying to get these businesses back to work and stop this economic warfare against the population. And 8 times in 8 weeks, we'd either do beach reopenings or park reopenings. We wouldn't just cut the lock off of the lock that, we'd cut the U-bolt holding the lock to the post so they couldn't put a new lock on there. And we would reopen beaches, and we'd walk on, at that point they were closing, the beaches in Santa Cruz, and that we'd have 60, 70 people, and we'd all walk out together going, we're reopening this beach. And everybody would walk together ahead, and here come the police, and the police would say, hey, you guys got to leave this, get out of this beach. And we would explain to them that we're not going anywhere. The government doesn't own the beach. There was never a point in time where the government got ownership of the beach. And we'd explain to the police, we wouldn't say anything about the Constitution. We would stand on natural law rights, and we would explain to them that when the police are violating natural law, that makes them the criminal, them the bad guys. And we shut down the police 8 times in 8 weeks when I was there. They've kept on, going on. But the police, they wouldn't arrest anybody. They understood the error of their ways. And so when people tell you that you can't beat City Hall, they don't know what they're talking about, because we would routinely beat City Hall. And then finally, the public health officer of Santa Cruz County had to get rid of the policy altogether, and actually, was quoted in the local newspaper saying, we're abandoning this because the people refuse to be governed in this manner. And so, I'm 8-0 versus the police, and I'm just I try and share that story to explain to people, not just in the United States but around the world, how to stand in their own power, and that you can beat City Hall, and all you've got to do is stand in your own power and stand on natural law, and you can put an end to this whenever you're ready to stand up for your rights.
I just thought of something. Are there any songs in the truth music genre about natural law? There's a good one. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a song written that I sampled Mark Passio at the beginning, and it's about natural law. I haven't gotten it out yet because the production's really dated, so I'm working on revamping the production.
Oh,
But
dude, that would be
Scam,
awesome, man. That would
my
be
song Scam is definitely about natural law too. I mean, there's a lot of lines in there that just, discredit the legitimacy of any type of authority and encourage people to stand on doing the right thing. So I think that's something that Howard and I have really in common, is that we're not just voluntarists, but we're also interested in these deeper principles of natural law. And this is something we've been talking about on all of the podcasts that we've been going on. And I think this is really important because you can't really step into that power that Etienne was talking about without being able to understand that you have certain rights that are given to you by creation, and they're not given to you by man. You might be able to understand that government is doing immoral things, and that there's all these problems and there's all this corruption, but until you realize that you have rights that are endowed to you by the creator, kind of in the same sense, the same vein as the people who founded this country said, rights endowed to us by the creator, then you can really step into that personal power of being like, okay, I actually have the right to do this, and now I can engage in peaceful non-compliance. And that's how these examples that Etienne is giving, that's how these all started off, as just peaceful non-compliance and people just refusing to comply. And when people refuse to comply in a peaceful, heart-centered way, then there's no way that governments can rule over us, period. Where there's way too many of us. And one of my lines from Scam is, outnumber them 1,000 to 1, wake from your slumber, the battle is won. So it's like as long as we can wake up and realize that nobody has any true power over us, and we hold that power in the rights that are endowed to us by creation, there's no way that we can be ruled. So, but yeah, a song specifically about natural law, I'm working on getting that one done, so it'll get out there soon. Yeah.
natural law, the 5 transgressions. One thing that Mark Passio said that I thought recently that I caught that I hadn't caught before was how they could all be called some kind of theft. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. And how did it break down? What were the...
So it's rape is the taking of someone's sexual freedom. You're stealing someone's sexual freedom. Trespass is your sexual choice. Trespass is you're taking someone's ability to be secure in their, person's, houses, papers, and effects, kind of thing. Murder, you're taking someone's life, stealing someone's life. What were the other two? I'm a little slow. No coffee today.
Yeah. I can't. The one of them was the
Assault.
theft of one's right to defend themselves. Trespassing.
Theft of physical security, and then theft is theft. So theft.
Right.
Is theft.
Very
So
good.
ultimately, natural law boils down to don't steal. It's 2 words.
Yeah.
That's literally the simplest possible way that you can boil it down, is don't steal.
Yeah.
And that's so simple. And I think that that's why it's so important that we help people to get this into their heads, because once people can stand on a firm principle, and especially a principle that makes so much sense, once you sort of take it in and understand it, it makes so much sense, and it's so simple And then from that perspective, you can see how everything that government does is inherently immoral because it always involves stealing on some level, right? So yeah, I think it's, I don't know, I just keep hammering that because I just feel like it's so critical that people realize moral rights and get out of this idea of, oh, we as humans make up what rights and wrongs are. It's like, no, we don't. We rights and wrongs are in creation. They're immutable conditions in creation. And if we stuck to those and we stepped into our moral compass, we would not be living in a state of tyranny right now. So,
and I would add to that, and I would say, karma is always operating, at full power in the universe. And the people that are supporting government are essentially, voting for to rob their neighbors. And this, if you think about it, the Republicans say, "Hey, elect my guy, and he's going to rob everybody, and he's going to put these policies into practice." And the Democrats are like, no, elect my guy, and he's going to rob everybody, and he's going to put these in practice. And it's really the voluntarists that are like, hey, why don't we not rob anybody? The world is a self-organizing place. It produces spontaneous order. Everything the government does would be done better, faster, cheaper by the free market, by mutual aid societies, by nonprofits, by real charity. And it's immoral to rob your neighbor or to advocate that your neighbor be robbed. And so I think a lot of the problems of the world are the karma coming back to people that are advocating that their neighbors be robbed. And because they're advocating and voting for their neighbor to be robbed, they themselves are being robbed. And it's creating all these, unintended consequences because the government has tricked the population into advocating the theft of their neighbors.
I love the work of Mark Passio. Maybe one day I'll get him on for an interview. My buddy Chris Jansen just interviewed him a few weeks ago. Passio's work, I'll definitely link it in. He has done a great job of bringing the what natural law is to the forefront of people's minds, and the way he teaches it and explains it makes it just so easy to take in and to learn and enjoyable. And he's funny, and he does it in such an enjoyable, funny way. I definitely recommend it because
unless you're easily offended.
Yeah.
If you're easily offended, don't watch Mark Passio's work.
Exactly. Yeah. And some people listening might think, because when they're hearing natural law, they might think, the law of gravity or something like that. And that's not exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the natural state of things, whether people exist or not. Quick karma. Long before I started to wake up and take the red pill and started to take interest in the truth and the way things actually are, it was brought to my attention that I knew what karma was. I'd heard of it, but specifically, I was in my younger days, I was very silly and running around, always going out. I was quite drunk one night, me and my buddies, and all stories start like that, right? Me and my buddies were drunk walking down the street. So we thought it'd be funny to pee. We had to pee, and we're in Madrid, Spain. It's 3 a.m. And we decided oh, look at these rich cars. Let's pee on the door handles of them. And so we did, laughing. Ah, ha, ha. Anyway, it wasn't a month later, I had my bike and I parked my bike between these 2 dumpsters, and I was working in a restaurant at the time. I went in, I came out, and somebody had specifically not only peed on my bike, but they peed right on the seat where I sit and the 2 handlebars. And I said, this is yep, I deserve this. I deserve this. This would not have happened had I not transgressed before. So that's my quick karma story anyway.
Karma hits like a bitch, don't she?
Yeah, karma's a bitch. So Stephanie, I wanted to ask you about your role in all this big project between Howard and Grant. How did you get involved in all of that?
Well, so I joined Autonomy, the course, this year, and in going through the course, got involved with copywriting for Autonomy Unlimited. And that just kind of led one thing to another, that I realized Autonomy Unlimited seems to need a media relations person. They had somebody else doing this reach out type of work for Howard's book and Grant's song. And I noticed that she was no longer doing that. I'm sure she's very busy. So I just suggested it in a breakout room during the autonomy course. And Michael Nimitz was like, you need to bring that up, like go off mute during the live Q&A, tell Richard this idea, or I will. And so I, was kind of forced into that. He triggered my complexity for me and brought it up. Can you mute that for a second? And and they were like, yeah, great idea. Okay, you're good to go. And so I just kind of started doing that for this particular project. So now apparently I'm the media relations officer for Autonomy Unlimited.
Yeah, it's all about opportunity. So we're at tonight, in fact, here in about an hour or so, we're going live again with Richard Grove for week 11 of season 6 of Autonomy. And so now that we're at the tail end of the course, I want to ask both you, Stephanie and Howard, what are your thoughts? How's it going for you?
It's been fantastic for me. And so I've been both, an autonomy student, and we hired Autonomy Unlimited to help with the Indiegogo campaign for the 5th edition of Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed. And so not only has Stephanie been helping, but there's been probably 5, 6 other Autonomy Unlimited folks, either in graphic design or copywriting or email marketing or retargeting, all kinds of next generation marketing capabilities that they've kind of brought to the table. And so it's been a great collaboration between the Art of Liberty Foundation and Autonomy.
And Howard, what about raw skill sets? I mean, we cover a lot of topics in the course itself. You were very skilled in a lot of these topics already before Autonomy. You already had developed a name for yourself, and I admire you, yet let's face it, you were a big influencer, yet you sat down and you've been through all the lectures anyway, but surely there are other things that you've picked up along the way. You want to, anything about that?
No. I mean, so, this is next generation digital marketing is an ever changing, landscape. And so, I'm constantly trying to, improve my skills, and because, I'm not just out there trying to sell a product, I'm trying to, help free humanity. I want to be the guy that widely exposes the illegitimacy and criminality of government to the world. And my strategy to do that is through this, easy to read picture book that, takes somebody from 0 to 60 in the shortest, amount of time. But to be able to get that book out, you can have the best product in the world, you can have the most important book in the world, but if you can't effectively market it and you can't effectively, get it out into the marketplace of ideas, then you're not going to be successful. And so, I'm trying to, take my game up, because, you have to, because I'm being censored on Facebook, I'm being censored on Twitter, I'm being censored on, I have view counts that go, backwards on YouTube. I get, emails from, YouTube saying somebody posted a comment, and I go to the video and there's no comment. I've got videos where the view count hasn't, moved in years. I've got, all manner of shenanigans going against me. They censored my Facebook account in my Etienne de la Boetie2 Facebook account in May of 2018. I'm routinely shadow banned on Twitter. And so I, unlike if I was just selling a widget, I've got to have twice the game of, somebody, just selling a widget to get over this algorithmic censorship of the DARPA internet, that anybody that's telling truth, in society, is up against. And so these are, absolutely, I look at it as absolutely critical skills to be able to get this very, very important information out into the world.
Yeah, and you've been killing it. You've been really busy as well, doing interviews. You were with, you were on Grand Theft World. You've been on, you were talking to Phoenix and the Drizzle last week, and Monica Perez. You're friends with Monica and Brad at the Propaganda Report. Yeah, it's just, you've been very persistent and going through that. So what's been the biggest challenge for you with getting all this out there with Autonomy Unlimited? What are some of the challenges that maybe you've faced and been able to overcome?
It's just that censorship that I told you, like I honestly believe if we had an honest social media platform, if Facebook had been an honest platform, we would have already beaten this organized crime system a decade ago. I mean, most people, they just don't understand the extent to which information is being, suppressed, at the same time that utter garbage and BS and silliness is being promoted. And so, most people, if you haven't been studying the problem the way I have for 20 plus years, you don't realize the extent to which we're swimming in this sea of propaganda and lies and, manufactured consent. And so the most frustrating thing is, having to constantly, deal with that. Grant is now experiencing the exact same thing. I think I mentioned, within a couple of days of the song being released on Spotify, I remember favoriting the song on Spotify. And usually when you favor something, it puts it into your liked playlist, and it wasn't going into my liked playlist. 2 days later, you couldn't play the song at all, and my virtual assistant, who works out of the Dominican Republic, couldn't even see it on the platform. And then, a day later, it's gone. Like, you can't play it at all. And so, and then I went to try and tweet about that, and then Twitter censored it. And so, Grant is seeing, what it's like to be an artist, and instead of having this song go super, super viral, I think he's probably realizing, that, oh my God, this is now going to be a harder road for me to hoe, because I'm out there telling the truth and exposing the criminality of the scam of COVID. And so it's very, very frustrating, to see your work being censored, your life's passion being censored because you're telling the truth.
Yeah,
Grant,
I want to just jump in really, if I can.
I was going to say,
really quick.
what other, where, assuming all the mainstream platforms do axe you, where can we go?
Yeah, so I actually am kind of bummed out because what I was originally planning on doing was having it ready on like BitChute, Odyssey, at least like 3 or 4 other decentralized platforms at the time that I released it on YouTube and Spotify and all of the mainstream platforms. And I didn't do that because I was just kind of hustling to get it out. And then once I did get it out on YouTube, all of the response started coming in really fast. And so I was trying to keep up with that, and I wasn't able to get it, didn't really have time to get it on the alternative platforms. But that was really a big lesson for me and I still think I have some time, but if I had, looking back with hindsight being 2020, I would have had it already ready on all those other decentralized platforms. Like if you look at what Max Egan's doing, for example, he's got like 90,000 people following him on BitChute right now. And that's a big number for BitChute. If you have 90,000 people following you on BitChute, that's a pretty big deal. So when Max Egan shared my video, if I'd already had BitChute, Odyssey, 3Speak, whatever, Freedom Tube links all put in my YouTube video, then people would have been able to go over and then save it on those platforms. Whereas now I feel like I've kind of missed maybe a little bit of that initial hump of a lot of traffic coming in, and that's okay. It was a good lesson, but I'm going to be, adding it to a bunch of decentralized platforms soon. And I do have a game plan. It's on my website. I have my own website where all of my content is hosted, which hopefully can't be taken down, which is just prezencemusic.com, PREZENCE music.com. And that way, if it does get pulled from YouTube or something, I'll just flip the link over to another platform. But yeah, kind of going back to what Howard was saying about censorship, I think that if we it is a bummer that we're dealing with this, but at the same time, there's so many people moving over to the decentralized platforms now as a result of, like big people like James Corbett being kicked off of big platforms, and Max Ian, and a lot of people have been kicked off the big platforms already, which has already driven a lot of traffic over to the alternative platforms. And I know for myself now, like if I want to get any information that's actually legit, I don't even go to YouTube anymore. I don't even bother going on YouTube to stay up to date with people who I follow, because now all the people who I follow are now conveniently all in one nice, other place. Mainly it's BitChute is the one that I'm using, but yeah, I just want to encourage the audience out there. If you don't have an account on some of these other platforms, I would definitely say go ahead and make one. And for myself as a creator, I'm going to continue to use the big platforms as long as I'm able to continue to push the message to a wider audience. But I'm going to constantly be reminding people, hey, look, if we really want to beat the censorship thing, we need to be moving over to alternative platforms. The same way as if we want to beat central banking, we need to be moving over to using cryptocurrencies in a day-to-day transactional manner, not just holding Bitcoin as a store of value. You know what I mean? So actually using these alternative technologies, and there's a lot of them that are coming out. And I really do think that's going to be a large solution to the issues we're facing. Will be really important in terms of getting artists and creators like myself and Howard compensated fairly for the work that we put out, and not, where Spotify, you're making 0.00025 cents or something per stream, while and the CEO of Spotify is raking in $4 billion or whatever it is. So I genuinely think that all of the censorship is causing things to move off of the mainstream platforms. And, if the sheep want to stay over there and they want to get basically a modern day version of CNN and NBC and all of those things just being fed straight down their gullet through YouTube, then fine. But people like ourselves, we should be moving off and focusing on alternatives at this point. So
the guys at Content Safe could possibly, if you haven't heard of them yet, they work with Autonomy Unlimited. That's what they do. They specialize in content creators who are getting kicked off. You give them a list, they will upload everything, IPFS, BitChute, Rumble, whatever, all the alternative platforms. They
Nice.
are offering solutions. I recently did an interview, not so recently now, with a guy named Matthew Raymer in a previous episode, and they're very much on top of that, helping out
Cool.
people like yourself. And so, yeah, the solutions are.
So we literally, by the way, we implemented Content Safe, and within a week after implementing Content Safe, YouTube censored off an interview with David and Mark Geyer, who were the ones to expose the criminality of the CDC's vaccine safety link database and the VAERS, and how the CDC is openly censoring independent researchers trying to do work in that database. And so literally within 1 week of us, of us engaging Content Safe, we got censored, and everything had already been backed up to, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and a variety of other platforms. So it works.
Yeah, I would definitely be interested in you connecting me with those people, because that's definitely something that I'm trying to do, but it's like my hands are pretty full as it is with all of the stuff that I'm creating. And so like having to upload things to like 10 other platforms is like something that I'd love to be able to outsource if I could. And so, yeah, I appreciate.
I have a meeting with them every Monday evening. We do a get together, and I'll send you their details and tell them.
Yeah, that'd be great. Let's stay connected on that, because that all sounds great. And I think that's exactly what we need to be doing, and helping each other out in those kinds of ways. So
all the links that we're mentioning now, I'm going to put in the show notes. I'll link everything, y'all's links and everything else. What was I going to say? Stephanie, any thoughts on your experience in Autonomy so far?
Well, Autonomy's been awesome. You guys talked about community and how it's like in Arizona versus the Pacific Northwest where I live. And that's really what originally drew me to Autonomy. Was I was just seeking out community, feeling like the only quote unquote crazy person that I know was myself. So I would go and watch like the High Wire or the Corbett Report and just sift through the live chat and look for other links, like other places for information and other places to connect with people. And through that found some local people and found autonomy, and just like one step to the next, finding these other resources. But I wanted to also bring up about the censorship. I don't think Etienne's really brought up some really cool ways that the Art of Liberty Foundation has come up with to not skirt censorship, but just make stuff uncensorable, like hand-to-hand sharing of the book. So like the Friends bundles, people have been buying those, like just buying like 10, 20, 50 books and then handing them out, or like leaving them on the shelf in the library, which is really cool. And then, so also there's the guerrilla retail kits. So like just put it straight in the store, and I think.
What is that? The guerrilla retail kit? What's in that?
So we're in the process of developing what we call a guerrilla retail kit, to where anybody that has a retail location, if you've got a coffee shop, if you've got a yoga studio, if you've got a,
I love it, man.
that you can attractively merchandise the book in a very small footprint within the store, and then
That's awesome.
share in the profits of the book. And then that allows us to, to get the book out in a way that we wouldn't be able to do in an age of monopoly chain bookstores. So that is the so we're innovating and how to get information out there. One of the other things is these flash drives, these this credit card size flash drive that will soon have 32 gig of information on it. This can go into your wallet, and not only does it have the the soft copy of the book, but it's got all of the evidence of the criminality that we outline in the book. And so there's no way for the government to stop the signal. There's no way for them to get rid of the evidence of government criminality. They may shut down the internet, but we're moving everything offline to where if you've got this in your pocket, you can be over at your friend's house, you can take it out, and while y'all are talking, he can be downloading all of the contents to his hard drive. And then now you've just made all of these videos that are disappearing off of YouTube and disappearing off of Facebook and disappearing off of Twitter. And we're making, not only are we ensuring that evidence doesn't go anywhere, but we're making it easy for you to share with your friends, your family, your colleagues, because you always have it in your pocket. And it's we're going to leave at least a gig of information, so you always have a flash drive in your wallet.
Oh, I just had a thought here. This is the worst marketing idea ever. Find yourself, this will give some street pickpocket people an opportunity. Give them loads of those pin drives so they follow people in the street, and then they slip them in their backpack, slip them in their pocket. So the person gets home and goes, "What's this?" And they stick it in, and their life will never be the same. Huh? How's that? I could be in marketing,
The other thing too that.
Good.
Oh, I was just going to say the other thing too that Etienne is doing really well is he's got his email list. And I think the email list is something that marketers often overlook in the modern day age of all these social media platforms. And email marketing is still just as good as ever. And, having a direct relationship with people who subscribe to you, I think is still really important, and people still check their email for sure. And if you're not subscribed to the Art of Liberty email newsletter, I definitely recommend getting subscribed, because he puts out 5 Meme Friday every Friday, which is like a collection of really good memes. And it's like one of the only email newsletters that I just enjoy looking at, just for the sake of looking at, and not because someone's trying to sell me something. He's not really trying to sell anything. He's just putting out good information to people. I think James Corbett does something like that. A lot of people are doing that still. So that's also a really good way to get around the censorship thing as well.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, there's nothing they can do about, as far as the importance of local geographical contacts. If you're within physical contact of someone, there's nothing they can do to, if I want to go trade a dozen eggs with Stephanie for a bag of homegrown lettuce or something, there's nothing they can do about that. We work a lot on solutions. I do the solutions section of the Grand Theft World newsletter, and right now I'm trying to work on a master like spreadsheet, like a checklist. This is the idea I've got going, because for people to just look and say, well, where is this within my doable range? If this is not, or how am I doing, or and get all of these different solutions on people's radars. And again, you guys, your solutions, you're doing it, you're killing it. Let's, Stephanie, do you want to add anything else to what you were saying earlier?
Well, one more thing about the censorship. You cannot censor a song that gets stuck in somebody's head. So Grant, that occurred to me. It's like, say we're living through a scam. Yeah, 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 yeah. You can't get that out of your head. It's
True.
but in terms of
True.
like I was talking about the community and everything, like I was speaking with another student on Zoom the other day, and it just occurred to us, it's like you can't predict it. You can't predict what's going to happen when you go to the live lecture, or you're in like a breakout room, or you're having an integration exercise over Zoom with a student. It's just magic. Like you'll get this idea and it's just synchronicity and you don't know when it's going to happen. It's just completely leveled up my life. Like I didn't see how it was going to happen. And you can't. I guess that's my point. You can't really see what's going to happen until you're in it.
It's a community.
Yeah, and it's high caliber people. That's why.
There's all of the, even though they're decentralized, we're all virtual, but there are a lot of communities. There's the Grand Theft World community. There's the Autonomy community. I'm part of Jack Spirko's The Survival Podcast community because I went to one of his workshops last spring. There's Media Monarchy. There's the Propaganda Report. You think about it, all of the Corbett's community, of course, they are in their own way all communities, decentralized, of course, and then there's a lot of overlap as well. And it's just another step going forward. And I've been amazed at how, since all this has started, these communities are starting to really come out of the woodwork. And I'm finding out, there's so many podcasts and shows out there that I never heard of that everybody seems to know. And I'm always learning more and more. It's overwhelming, which is the best kind of overwhelm to be having right now. I don't know how many people actually are seeing through this scam that is happening right now. I honestly don't know, but I'm starting to get an idea. It's more than I realize, but then sometimes I go into Dallas and I go to the store and I look around and I think, oh my God, maybe it's worse than I thought. You see, because you can tell what it's like as a litmus test. You just got to go into town and go to the local grocery store. Not always. Good. Thank you, Stephanie. Any final thoughts? We'll go around and wrap up. Stephanie, any final thoughts?
Oh, well, you had brought up all these other communities. I'm in some of those on Discord, for example, like the Survival Podcast. And that brought to mind that within Autonomy, there's all these other little servers and groups and projects that you can be in, like learning about mesh networks or learning about copywriting. There's one called the One Room Schoolhouse. And so that's pretty cool too.
Very good. What about you, Grant? Any final thoughts? Any plugins? I mean, you've plugged in your websites, your songs. Anything else you want to talk about?
Yeah, no, everything that we're doing music wise can be found at prezencemusic.com, PREZENCE music.com. And then you can check out, we do have all of the slutty Instagram and Facebook and all the shitty social media accounts linked there. We're going to be linking up all of the decentralized platforms soon. And please just go, and if you like the music, just please share it and help us get the message out there. It's like 100% grassroots at the moment. And so anybody who shares it, it really means a lot to us and we really appreciate it. And also if you save the music on Spotify, or if you follow us on Spotify or Apple Music or whatever streaming platform of your choice, that also helps us out a lot, because the algorithms, I think, on those platforms are not censoring quite as much as like YouTube. So if you click follow, it'll help to start recommending that music alongside other music that people are listening to. So yeah, just please share it and help us get it out there. It means the world to us. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. I wanted to ask you, what about any future projects?
Yeah, well, that's a good reason to follow us. We're actually planning a song and video release every single month of this upcoming year, 2022. So we have a lot of stuff on deck. We already have 4 songs and videos ready to go out. And we're just going to keep cranking them out, and we're just going to continue to light the fire under people and bring the fire, to bring the reggae fire. So definitely go follow us. We have an email newsletter on our website. We have all the social media platforms, and then of course the streaming platforms. So yeah, just clicking follow really helps us out a lot, because we're really wanting to connect with an organic fan base that's truth and liberty minded people who can help to play this music. I'm actually going to be going out to an event in San Diego this weekend that Del Bigtree and RFK Jr. are speaking at, and this is kind of on the lowdown right now, but I'm singing on a song that might be being played at some big freedom events of those types. So yeah, lots of things in the works, but just simply doing the free stuff of following and sharing, that means the world to us. So we appreciate it a lot. And thanks for having me on, Chris. Nice to meet you in person, Stephanie. It's been a lot of typing over email. I was also going to ask you, what's the PB and jelly thing about?
Oh, my husband and my son are both, their initials are both PB. And so I'm just the jelly in the middle.
Oh, perfect. Good answer. Okay, cool. I was curious about that. Now I know.
Excellent. What about you, Etienne? Any final thoughts, future projects you want to wrap up with?
Well, the major thing right now is we're in the middle of this Indiegogo. And so if anybody is interested in pre-ordering the 5th edition of Government, the Biggest Scam in History Exposed, you can do that at artofliberty.org/Indiegogo. And you get a discount over and above what you would pay, once it's not in Indiegogo form. So that is my major project. And then after that, I'm going to be releasing a book called Voluntarism: How the Only Ism Fair for Everyone Leads to Harmony and Prosperity for All. One of the things that I've figured out is one of the biggest, deficits in my book is, people tell me I do a great job of explaining how organized crime runs the government and the media, but what are you going to do? Who's going to build the roads?
My roads!
The roads. So the book Voluntarism really explains the market mechanisms of the invisible hand, or capital creation, spontaneous order, everything that that a lot of people don't understand, that makes government not just obsolete, but inefficient, and tremendous amount of capital misallocation, and we would all be tremendously wealthier if we didn't have this crooked monetary system, and if we didn't have this crooked middleman in Washington D.C. Siphoning off the nation's wealth and stealing it right out the back door to their friends and cronies at big pharma or big ag or big defense, or any of the other monopoly cartel companies that have been overfunded by central bankster dollars to dominate and monopolize their own industries. You wouldn't have that in a true free market. All of this corporate malfeasance is essentially made possible by the crooked monetary system and the government. And so we want to expose the market mechanisms and the economic mechanisms by which you do not need government. And so I think what most people, they tolerate government because they think that there's no other way to organize society. And so my thesis is, if people understood that the world is this self-organizing system that produces spontaneous order, then they wouldn't necessarily be advocating for government. Right now, they just don't understand the way the world really works, because the system doesn't want you to understand the way the world really works. And so we want to not just expose how the magician does the trick so you don't get fooled by the trick, but we want to give people, a comfort and an understanding that, yes, there's still going to be armed protective services, but it's not going to be the monopoly police. It's going to be ADT or Brinks or Garda competing for your business, and you're going to be able to evaluate them on how well they secure, neighborhoods and how much restitution that they're able to produce. And so I think that the world is just about to figure out the scam of government, and we're going to get this, this parasite off of our back, and you're going to see the economy and the society and cultural flourish once we get rid of organized crime government.
I said we're living through a scam, yeah. 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 Break down that walls that we got to unify. Differences between us make us beautiful and divine. Politicians, them, they use that difference to divide. I know who I am, my heart is in alignment. Standing up to the tyrants, no need to live in confinement. Babylon crumbling before my eyes, I'm not surprised. Yet every breath I take in the oxygen, I'm optimizing. My health is my true wealth, and no vaccine will compromise it. Needles injecting into the ship, but they genetically modified. Installing the operating system, 5G comes online. If death by toxic chemicals or heavy metals ever make the headlines, blame it on the virus which they never purified. That's right, because we're living through a scam, yeah. I said we're living through a scam, a scam. Said we're living through a scam, yeah. Said there's a new type of Nazi on the block. Political correctness is the branding on the flock. Operation Warp Speed coming with a vaccine. When them needles come at me, there's only one who takes a shot. Hey, I got the 12 gauge in the closet, 357 on my bedside. Block on my appendix, I'm athletic, train myself right. Contact tracers come at me, your medics won't be too psyched. Own this human body, self-defense, it is my birthright. Indoctrination from cradle to grave, I'm not living under a slave state. Figure that yet that the criminals can only rule you through religion and hate. Authority held in belief, a majority fear nothing more than a spreading conformity. Outnumber them, 1,001. Wake from your slumber, drop out till it's one, yes. Because we're living through a scam, yeah. I said we're living through a scam, a scam. Said we're living through a scam, yeah. We will reclaim our sovereignty. We're growing stronger each day. We will reclaim our sovereignty. We're growing stronger each day. Election is selection, let the fraud get your attention. Every 4 years put a new puppet be thrown with no objection to aggression, no oppression, or violent tax collection. True democracy is each individual making her own selections. 51, picking their own at 49, that's my rule. Dialectics to distract us, even the fight is not cool. Time for us to each become the master of our destiny. Individual sovereignty is the way to free society. Rise up, take the power back, yo. Rise up and be the change you want to see. Rise up, your silence is compliance. Let your words shape your future destiny. Hey, rise up, a counter-attack, yo. Rise up and take a stand for love and peace. Rise up, there's no more playing small now. The time has come to choose to be free. Cause we're living through a scam, yeah. And we not let no politician control us. Said we're living through a scam, yeah. We're free in our minds and in our hearts. Said we're living through a scam, yeah. We practice self-ownership. I said we're living through a scam, yeah. And you know Jah love always prevails in the end.
Autonomy is not just like how to work from home or how to earn money online. That's a causality, but it's really about how to observe your reality to find the right problems that need to be solved, how to have a method to be able to solve those problems, how to have the team and collaboration you need to be able to solve those problems. Success can bring a change that is unforeseen, and it depends on how you choose to think about that. So here comes freedom of choice. We have a choice on how we react to the thoughts we have, or if we thoughtfully respond. Or in between stimulus and reaction, there can be a space, but there doesn't have to be. The people who are under control get stimulus and they react. That's the automaton. The autonomous person receives stimulus and says, hey, before I react, let me ask a few questions. Let me look around with my 5 senses. Let me gather some data, put a thoughtful response together, and then I'll pass that energy along. The difference is freedom or slavery. The people who don't have thinking in between stimulus and reaction, they're slaves. And the people who do open up that space and choose to ask a question, those are the people who have a chance to be free.